Hello and welcome everybody today to this podcast. I'm going to be your host. My name is Guillermo Pardo. And how are you today? I hope you're doing fine. I hope you're doing good and staying healthy. I want to talk to you about a topic today, and an interesting topic by that fact. I know that people say interesting topic and then they rant on about why the earth is flat. I promise I won't do that to you. So, let's get started. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. All of these are probably the most popular social media platforms that I could think of. TikTok is right now a very popular social media platform. Now, countries monitor social media pretty heavily. The US does that. That by no means am I saying that the US is watching you all the time. No, I'm not trying to speculate or instate anything. I'm just saying that government really does sometimes observe a lot of things, either privately owned or because they have some type of arrangement with this organization. For example, let's see some examples. China and Russia are probably the two most popular countries that people think about when it comes to social media registrations and bans. And yes, that is true. China actually has the most restrictive censorship laws in the world. Many of the platforms are banned, and there are Chinese equivalents that are actually monitored very closely by the government. In Russia, online media is monitored by the government watchdog and is routinely restricted. There are laws actually that have moved to block US platforms for allegedly censoring Russia in their country. Saudi Arabia also has an extensive censorship of media platforms. This was actually due to the monarchy being accused of manipulating online discourse. Now, social media is allowed in the vast majority of the world, and some of the leading countries that allow social media and internet is pretty much a norm nowadays are the United States, Brazil, Australia, and India. Now, in these countries, that doesn't mean that it's all nice and dandy for social media. As a matter of fact, Mark Zuckerberg has had to testify in Congress. I'm pretty sure that many of you might be familiar with this instance. Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube all have bans and restrictions to what kind of content is allowed to be published. And of course, Facebook, you are able to report any inappropriate content. And yeah, so this is actually where the gray areas begin. One of the arguments that was made was that how exactly do we monitor or ban some type of content of social media? Where do we draw the line? The way I like to think about it is that we are indeed given the freedom of speech. However, we are not given the freedom of consequence. We are able to say and think whatever we want, but just because we're able to do that doesn't mean that we're living free of the consequences of what we're doing, saying, or thinking. Coming back to social media and misinformation though, this is why there are so many gray areas. And this is actually why there have been issues about what is able to be posted and what is able to be shared in social media. For example, the 2016 presidential election, where it was accused that Russia was manipulating these by false targeting people about different candidates and speculating things. The Pizzagate scandal, another big one and very recent one. Vaccines cause autism, one that has been running for a while now, and this one is actually from early 2000s if I'm not mistaken. All of these are incidents that have happened due to false and misinformation being shared in social media. School shootings, unfortunately, have also been due to social media misinformation. Either a student decides to jokingly say something about their school and something's going to happen, it just causes this entire domino effect where everybody just freaks out completely and can probably cause a lot of trouble for the district. Now, these are results. These are stuff that has happened because of social media. Elections, fake news, conspiracy theories, misinformation being shared because of social media. Now, this is what I really wanted to talk about. The Communications Decency Act. If you've ever gone to a McDonald's and you feel ill after you eat something, you cannot sue McDonald's because of that. That's something called the burger law. And it's something that pretty much lets a lot of fast food restaurants off the hook. This is the same, but for social media. And I quote, According to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, the CDA, private online service providers are free from liability for content posted on their sites, with some exceptions for child pornography, human trafficking, and this basically means that if you put something out there in social media, or not you, but there is something out there posted that you don't like or feel offended by it, well, tough luck. You can report it to the platform, but that doesn't mean that the person who posted it is going to be directly responsible for your feelings to it. And this is where the problems start to develop. That means that a lot of people that have access to social media are able to spread out misinformation. What misinformation am I talking about? I mentioned it before, and I will go one by one at a time. And we'll go with them in detail. The 2016 presidential election. What happened here? Essentially, if I break it down to its bare bones, there was some speculation that Russia used Facebook to create micro-target ads that would cause the presidential election to be swayed for one candidate and not the other. The Pizzagate scandal, in which an individual was posting about how various people from a political party were using code about child trafficking, as well as other conspiracy theories. Now, transitioning back from conspiracy theories to misinformation and some of the impacts that has had, I can tell you right now that citizens are not researching enough. What I mean by this, how is this an impact from social media? Well, citizens and a lot of the population, that has actually been done from a study, they have decided that all of their information is valid the first time they see it, and that's it, and they don't go on and double check what's going on. This was actually from the Harvard Business Review. They found out that a majority of the population will simply read some article off the internet, probably only read the headline, and if it's faulty information, they won't care about it because they will already knew that it is true. So this creates the sense of, I did my research, I did this, I was able to do that, I know this now, when indeed what they know is wrong. What I mean by wrong? Well, let's take, for example, vaccination. Vaccination cause autism is something that can be traced to the early 2000s and is the result of a very faulty experiment done by a certain individual. What this individual did was that he went out and sought parents that had children that had developed autism, very early stages of parents dealing with this. So he did this, and he actually only was able to reach out to a couple of dozen parents. When doing a scientific study, especially one of this magnitude of accusation, a large sample is required and is essential to make all the statistical data significant and actually have some value. However, when reaching to a small group of people, especially people that are dealing with very hard stuff right now, it is difficult to obtain this data. Another problem with the study was that the survey conducted to reach the answers were very, very intuitive. The researcher would ask the parents, instead of asking them, hey, do you notice or did you remember doing anything before your child started to develop autism? The researcher would ask them, was your child vaccinated before he developed autism? So when he poses this question to these parents, the parents immediately say yes. And they form this idea that, oh my gosh, that must be it. So this is where the fault and the entire experiment itself starts to fall apart. There has actually never been another experiment that has proven that vaccines are harmful for children and cause autism. This is the only study out there, and that is because a lot, and I mean a lot, of people have decided to ban this study in the internet. It can only be found if you're trying very, 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 very hard. And this is actually the study that many organizations that are anti-vaccine and all of that refer to. This is going on to this day. There are still individuals that are anti-vaxxers, and there is still people like me that are fighting against them and are debating against them and are trying to demonstrate them that it is false because of the result of misinformation and social media. This study would have not been made public if it weren't for social media. And these are the repercussions that I'm talking about. However, not everything is bad for social media. Social media has allowed us to connect with individuals and share awareness about many topics. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement and the women's rights movement. All of these thanks to social media and people deciding to share their experiences and their knowledge with everybody else, as well as people that have decided to listen to them, just like you are right now. Well, that's all the time I have for you guys today, and I really appreciate if you sticking by for a while and listening to me. I hope that I might have informed you of something today, and I might have shared something interesting with you. And I hope that you learned something. Till next time.